We've talked about this a lot, contact tracing. It's one of the methods our leaders are using to help slow COVID-19 spread. States are enlisting workers, even students and librarians, to track down COVID patients and their interactions. But then there's a privacy concern with tracing. When we go hyperlocal, not every county in California is meeting its state obligations, largely from lack of resources. And as we say, not everyone is on board. Joining us now to further the conversation is data ethics and privacy advocate Tiffany Johnson. Thank you so much for being with us, Tiffany. This is a big issue. It's an important tool for California and for really the country to be able to help contain the spread of the virus. Yet California's been having some issues with it. Why do you think California's not really nailing it when it comes to contact tracing?
So I think that California is having a similar issue to the rest of the U.S. really, which is that when it comes down to it, people do not trust tech companies, nor do they trust the government to collect this data and only use it specifically to help track the virus. I think that they're also afraid that this is information and their personal private information that the government and tech companies will have that can be used then for other purposes that they're just not comfortable with. So I think that's really a large portion of it.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, people do have these concerns around privacy, but I know that you worked on some legislation in New York State to help to tailor some of these laws and so that people can have more comfort, perhaps, in divulging some of this information. Because again, contact tracing is so important to help maintain our health when it comes to this pandemic. So what do you think we could do in California from a legislative standpoint to help with contact tracing and privacy concerns?
Well, I think the first thing is, so California's CCPA already went into effect, so that's fantastic. But it's not COVID specific, and it doesn't go quite far enough. So from the New York State legislative side, what they've done is actually, and what I've advised on, is they've issued things similar to like deleting data after 14 days and making sure that your personal data is not going to continually be in a system that will just keep tracking and keep understanding where you are. So that's one of the big things. And I think one of the other really big things too is really giving consumers more choice and having choice as to what they are actually giving up and being able to then restrict that choice as well. So you're able to say, hey, I'm no longer comfortable with this. And really, I will add actually one more thing in there that the New York State legislation has done, is that they have restricted use of this data so that it's not going to be used for marketing purposes. It's not going to be used for advertising purposes. It's also not going to be used for any kind of federal or police purposes either. And so I think those are some of the other things, is restricting that data specifically for to track COVID and to actually help solve that problem.
Yeah, it's an unprecedented time, so it does require some tailored approach. If you could tell us in just our final moments, where if people are watching and they want to get involved, they want to figure out how they can learn more or perhaps help advocate for some of these laws, where would you direct them?
I would absolutely direct them to your state senators. Your state senators want to hear from you. No matter what state you're in, whether it's California, New York, or anywhere in the middle, they want to hear from you. So reach out to them and tell them that this is an issue. And not only your state, but your federal senators as well. Reach out and say, I'm concerned about my personal privacy and my data health and the data that is associated with my health.
So important. All these issues are so important, Tiffany, and there's a great advocate advice that you're giving us. Thank you so much for your time today. Really appreciate it. And we'll be considering this issue moving forward. Thanks again, Tiffany.